Hi, my name's Dan Keane. I'm a composer, producer, and musician based in London. Over the last couple of weeks, I've had a bit of a flurry of new subscribers who are interested to get started in composing and producing music. Welcome, new subscribers. But it dawned on me that a lot of my content sort of relies on pre-existing knowledge in other things. So when I talk about Logic or EQ or workflow, things like this could be quite alienating to people who don't know what those things are. So I thought it could be a good idea to start a series on this channel called The Basics, which would be quick tips, beginner investments, equipment recommendations, and things like that, generally filling in the gaps that my other content reveals. Welcome to episode 1, MIDI control surfaces. Now, I've received quite a few questions about this thing. What does it do? How does it control your sample libraries? How do you use it in Logic? Well, I'm here to answer that question today. This control surface is effectively a set of faders that sends and receives MIDI information. They come in lots of different shapes and sizes. This particular one is a Behringer BCF 2000. It's got lots of faders which are motorized, so that's particularly helpful if you're mixing audio tracks. It's got the ability to send and receive MIDI from other MIDI devices, and its size means you can get really fine control over your instruments, your controllable elements within your sample libraries. This is what I use in my studio day to day, and it's perfect for what I need. This, on the other hand, is a Korg Nano Control 2. This has 9 faders. It's got little transport control buttons so you can zip around your project quickly. And because it doesn't require an external power supply, it's kind of ideal for if you're traveling or if you're on a laptop and you're composing in a coffee shop or on a plane or something. The only downside with this is because the faders are so short, you don't get so much control over your sample instruments. Now, every element of a sample library can be controlled by a different parameter on a MIDI device. And I'm going to show you how I use these control surfaces in my workflow with Logic. My most important faders are these 3. CC1, otherwise known as the mod wheel, this is for dynamics. So this fades between the softest and the loudest recorded layers, giving you a nice kind of crescendo or diminuendo, allowing you to give a little bit more expression in your music. Next is CC11. This is sort of like CC1, except it doesn't control kind of how dynamically soft or loud the players are performing, more just the volume of the instrument track. So when I'm recording my MIDI, I'll actually blend this to help me kind of get a nice balance between, say I'm recording the violins, between the violins, violas and cellos, for example. Finally, this is CC21 and is a Spitfire-specific vibrato control between 0, a little bit of vibrato, and molto vibrato. Now, for 95% of my workflow, I'd say that's pretty much all I need. I don't need the other faders, but it is sometimes nice to have. For example, number 4 is CC67, and I use this because I don't have a second sustain pedal, so this activates the left pedal, the soft pedal, on a piano. If your sample libraries come with soft pedaled samples engaged, sometimes what I do is I just whack that up to the top, and it's like I'm holding my foot down on that pedal. The next 3 faders here are used to control Spitfire's first 3 mic positions. So normally this would be the close, the tree, and the ambience. So for this, I've got it set to CC22, 23, and 24. And the reason I do this is because sometimes if I want to get a specific blend of the microphones, and I don't want to have to do it with my mouse every single time, what I'll do is I'll kind of create all the tracks that I want, and then I'll group them together, record enable them together, and then I'll move these faders so that every single instrument now has that custom profile set up. Finally, this last fader is CC7, which is a little bit like CC11 expression, but it's mainly used for kind of setting the level of your instrument before you start recording. So, for example, with my Spitfire instruments, I find that in Contact it kind of has a default of -6 dB, and I find that's a little bit too quiet for me. So I tend to push this all the way up, and then that kind of defaults it to 0 dB. Now, there's probably a better way to do this, but I'm going to show you how to change the MIDI CC received by Logic in the Logic environment. So you need to go up to Window and go into Open MIDI Environment. And if it doesn't already, you need to go to Layer and click on Click and Ports. This is basically where all of your external equipment comes in, goes through your inputs, and then finally goes to the sequencer input. This is what it's playing into Logic. Now, by default, if I move this first fader, you can see it's set to CC81, which isn't very helpful because I need it to be CC1, the mod wheel. So I'm going to go up here to New, and I'm going to click Transformer. And I'm just going to delete this little link here. So this is coming out of the sum of everything, and then it's going into my kind of keyboard. So I don't actually need that. So I'm going to drag instead to my transformer. Now, what I need to do is I need to filter just the MIDI CC that I want to change. So in this case, I'm going to click equals, and I want it to be a control that I'm changing. I don't want to do anything to the notes, just the control. It doesn't matter which channel it's on, and I'm going to change the first byte, which is the CC number. This is the one I'm going to change, and I'm going to fix it. So I'm going to fix this to number 1. Now that simple change, if I now kind of rewire this back in here, when I move this first fader now, it's now kind of changed to 1. I now need to do that for every single fader using exactly the same principle. And once you're finished, it should look a little bit like this. So as I move each fader, you can see that the CC input that's coming in versus what's going out is different for every single one. And that means that we've done it correctly. Once you've done this, I would recommend going up and saving this as a template, because you may find that you open a project from someone else, or you want to start a brand new project and you don't have to do this every single time. What's quite helpful is you can rename your layer. So in this case, I've called this Behringer Rewire. I've got another one saved for the Nano Control 2 as well. And this means that if I'm kind of on the go and I need to open up the profile that I've set for that, I can just go up to Options, Import Environment, click Layer, and then it's going to ask me which project I want to open that from. So in this case, I'm going to open it from my studio template, and I can actually see the different layers here that I might want to import, in which case I want to click on Behringer, for example, and it sets this all up for me. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you found this video to be useful. If you did, please click thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done already. Loads of exciting things to come soon. Stay well, stay safe, stay warm, and see you very, very soon.